Last time we did, if you remember, pre-Islamic condition of Arabs, how Arabs were before Islam, right? We discussed that Arabs were warriors, Arab were they were killing their daughters. There was some tradition, but along with the bad tradition, they have good positive things in a society. Like they were very brave, they were fulfilling their promises, and they were honest, and so many good and positive both things we have discussed. Then we have seen how did Arabs came into Hijaz. Hijaz was the area, if you remember, Mecca, Medina, and Taif. I told you. Mm. Then we discussed two category of Arabs. Actually, these were three categories that one Arabs now we don't have anymore. These we can find in Quran, Thamud and Ad. Their traces we have, and others we discussed. There are two types of Arabs: the original Arabs, which we could discuss, Qahtanis, and second were they were people who became Arabs. Then I told you the history of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, how he traveled, he journeyed throughout Ur, and he just moved to towards Egypt. Then we see then there was one lady, Hajar. She was gifted by king to mm, Ibrahim alayhi salam. They three together, Hajar and Sarah and Ibrahim alayhi salam. They moved back to Palestine and settled down. And then we see on the hukum of commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ibrahim alayhi salam left his wife because he married to Hajar in Palestine, in Mecca, along with his son Ismail alayhi salam. And we seen that how Zamzam water was found when Ismail alayhi salam was thirsty, and a mother was running between Safa and Marwa for water, and then Allah gave the mu'jiza, and water appeared on the surface. It is Zamzam. And I told you the Zamzam was that Hajar was, she was surprised. She was worried about if it's not going to be spread out. So she started making walls and saying Zamzam, stop like this. And then we have seen that another tribe, that was Jurham. They were Qahtanis. And you remember Qahtan, I told you, and his son was Yorub Arab. That's why they came to know these are Arabs. So these tribes moved from Yemen to Mecca. Because why they moved from Yemen to Mecca? Because there was a flood in Yemen, right? And they couldn't live there anymore. So they moved to Yemen. So they request to Hajar, can we use your water, Zamzam? Then she said, this is mine actually, but yes, you can share the water. So from that, they started living along with Hajar, and Hajar with the Qahtanis tribes. So Qahtanis, they moved from Yemen. They were original Arab. They had origin their own language, but the people from who moved from like Hajar and Ibrahim al-Islam, they were not Arabs. So Ismail al-Islam started to live together with Qahtanis. He learned the language and culture, and he married in the Qahtanis. So this happened. So till that we have discussed to you, if you remember. Actually, why we are discussing this one, we have to discuss that how this lineage come. Like we will go from Jurham, then Banu Khuza, then Qusay, then Hashim, then Abdul Muttalib, then Abdullah, then Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Yani Prophet ﷺ, his father Abdullah, then grandfather Abdul Muttalib, then great-grandfather Hashim, then great-grandfather Qusay, and so on. So we have to look at this lineage. That's why we are going into the history. And remember, this history, many people doesn't know how we came from, who were the Arabs, how Islam. Just they know Prophet ﷺ and Quran, but they don't know the details. You are lucky one that you are getting it. And remember, this is just extra information. Just stick to the point. This is just think about this story. Maybe someone asks you, tell me about the Zamzam. Now you come to know what is the story of Zamzam. Okay, tell me from which place Ibrahim alayhi salam was. Then you come to know. Now you come to know Hajar. She was from Egypt, right? And Then what happened? Ismail and Hajar, they moved to Palestine because Allah dreamt. Allah, this is a one trial. So this is the big things to have in mind. So today, inshallah, we have to proceed from the story, the life, this old historical background. Then we, inshallah, connect to Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So what we have looked, where we stopped last week, that Jurham moved from Yemen. It is south of south of Mecca. They moved from Yemen towards Kaaba. They started living with Ismail alayhi salam. After many years, what happened? One tribe, Banu Khuza, they attacked on Mecca. I mean, they started fighting with Jurham tribe and took over Mecca. They evicted Jurham from Mecca because they thought that they are Qahtanis, and actually this Khuza, this also called Adnani. Adnani, when say Adnan, remember who is Adnan? Adnan is the 20th grandfather of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So Adnanis is remained is that these were not Arabs. These were those people who became Arabs. Right? So Khuza, they were not Arabs. They were not original Arab. They attacked over Jurham. They were original Arabs. You remember? They moved from Yemen to Mecca. They were evicted. When they evicted, took away Jurham from Mecca, they started ruling over Mecca. When Jurham left Mecca, what he did, he buried Zamzam well and threw a lot of precious things into that well. कुएं में सारी चीज़ें डाल दी. And these were things were from Kaaba, some things, precious things from Kaaba, maybe some things made of gold. So they thrown into this well and buried it. What happened when Banu Khuza came here in this region? Then idolatry was introduced. What is this idolatry? Worshipping of statues, idols. Actually, they were also followers of Umar bin Lahi. So this idolatry was spreaded from Mecca to throughout the Arab Peninsula. After that, we see that another person, Qusay ibn Kallab, he came. Remember Qusay? Look at the screen. He was grandfather of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Qusay, actually, he was a descendant of Quraysh Banu Ismail. When I say Banu Ismail, remember Ismail alayhi salam, then his children is called Banu, children of Ismail alayhi salam. But you know, if we look at, for example, there like few students, Rafi and Abdurrahman and Momin. If I ask you who is your grandfather, you know the name. Then I ask you, okay, what is your grandfather, grand to grandfather? Okay, might be few of you know. Maybe then I say, okay, tell me grandfathers. Maybe you don't know. So, but here, Prophet ﷺ, we know the grandfathers, even 20th grandfather as well, right? So this is, so what happened after, we see one person was Qusay ibn Kalab. He was the descendant of Banu Ismail. When his father was died, he was infant. Mother remarried another person. He belongs to the tribe of Azra, and they moved to Syria. This Qusay, he doesn't know that he is actually from Syria or he is from Mecca. When he came to know he is Mecca, he came back to Mecca. When he came back from Syria to Mecca, there was the tribe. Who was the tribe? Khuza. Khuza were ruler. So when Khuza's leader, king, he looked at Qusay, that his personality is very strong, he has leadership qualities, he gave her daughter to him as a marriage. So he married her daughter with him, with Qusay. And before his death, Qusay gave the all charge to his daughter. And of course, giving to all charge and authority to daughter, it means who is going to become king next. He will be Qusay, because he married to his daughter. Khuza king's daughter, Qusay was married. So Now Qusay became king of Kaaba. In the position in the time of Qusay, the Makkah became very strong. The Quraysh became strong. What happened? He called all the Qurayshi tribes around and surround Makkah and said they settled down within Makkah or near Makkah. So he made a homogeneous society. Then he made Darul Nadwa. This was like a parliament. So what was happening in Darul Nadwa? In major chiefs, they were conducting meeting there, and marriages were taking place. It was like a parliament and big community hall. And another thing was that he introduced a established system for Hujjaj. Do you see, Hajj is from the old times, not we say that, oh, Hajj is introduced after Islam, but it is from the history we see. Every time we see the people go to Makkah for performing Hajj. So now what happened? Qurayshi become more respectable people, tribe, Adnani tribe. If I say Adnani, you now come to know that Prophet's lineage is connected with Adnan. He is the 20th grandfather of Prophet. So now Quraysh become religious authority, political influence they have there, and of course the blood is connected from Ismail alayhi salam. Then we see from Qusay there many men comes like Kinana and Quraysh. Then history says in Quraysh that he has many sons, Abdul Manaf, Taim, Anasar, Zuhra, Adi, Zukhruf, all. So again, then it is divided into sub-clans. Hashim, Muttalib, Abd Shams. After Qusay, there's another person, strong person came. He was Hashim. Hashim, actually, this is all in your book, and inshallah, we will read it out, but now understand how it is linked to Prophet ﷺ. So, Hashim, Banu Hashim. After Qusay, first I told you that the Jurham moved to Arabian Peninsula. After Jurham, Banu Khuza came. They were Adnani. They were not Arab in origin. Then Banu Khuza, Qusay come, right? Ibn Kilab. After Qusay, the another person we are going to discuss, his name is Hashim. Hashim, because Prophet ﷺ's lineage is from Banu Hashim. Now, very much important. From Banu Hashim, Abdul Manaf, descendants of Qusay. His actually name was Amr, but he was known as Hashim. Hashim means who smashes something. What he was used to do, why he was titled as Hashim, because he was tearing out breads, making bread into the small pieces and putting into the meat soup and serving to pilgrims. So this was very much important. That's why he was titled the person who smashes the bread into the soup. It is like that. You have some gravy salan, meat salan, gosht ka salan hai aapke paas. Then you are tearing off the bread into that salan, small pieces, and it is, we learn from Hadith, Prophet ﷺ used to do this the same way. And one important dish in from the time of Prophet ﷺ, we have sarad. Inshallah, we'll discuss later on. So then he also arranges the trips for soup was served to pilgrims, and he arranged the journeys to Syria and Yemen. Do you know why we are discussing Yemen and Syria again and again? If we have a look on the map, and I told you last time, this is the Arabian Peninsula, right? Syria is here, north of, this is Makkah. M for Makkah and Medina. The borders, here you see this Yemen, then Oman. This is the Persian Gulf, and here is the Red Sea. If you look at this all, you will come to know this, how trade was going on. That tribes, they're moving to Syria. They were crossing from here, crossing from Mecca. And the people who want to do business, they are coming from Syria to go Yemen. So this is what, and maybe Oman or somewhere, but they were always crossing from Mecca. So this was Mecca was very much important place. This was important route for business, and of course Hajj was going on for many years, and because of Hajj, this is why if someone asks you how, this is another reason that Mecca was yeah, is populated, because it's the business route, because of Hajj people are used to go there. So what happened in the time of Hashim, he was also planning business trips to Syria. So once upon a time, he was going to trip to Syria in the north of Mecca. Then he was crossing from Medina. And the way to Medina, he married a lady. In the day that time, that lady, the Medina was named as Yathrib. The old name of Medina is Yathrib. When he crossed from Yathrib, he married a lady, and then he few days after living in Medina, he moved to Syria. But in the journey to Syria, after that, he passed away. He died. But no one knows that his wife is pregnant, and she gave birth to a boy, and his name was Shu'aiba. Shu'aiba, why it was named Shu'aiba? Because his hair was gray. So now this lady gave birth to boy Shu'aiba, and no one knows. Here in Mecca, there was the person Muttalib, and Muttalib, he didn't know that his brother has son in Medina. After many years, it is said is after 8 years, then his uncle, Shoiba's uncle, Muttalib, come to know that he has nephew in Medina, son of Hashim. Got it? So he went Medina and brought his nephew back to Mecca. When he was coming back to Mecca, people thought he is a slave of Abdul Muttalib. Okay, he is slave of Abdul Muttalib. He used to say Abdul Muttalib. Abd means servant, slave, and whose slave? Muttalib. So from that day, his name was Abdul Muttalib. Shu'aiba name was Abdul Muttalib, and okay, till here Abdul Muttalib, he was, when he grew up, then his same position, the same position of whose? The father has same position. He was conducting trips to Syria and Yemen, and he was hosting pilgrims, and so all the designation he had, it was written to the son Abdul Muttalib. So what happened the time of Abdul Muttalib? Now remember, Abdul Muttalib is grandfather of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Got it? Abdul Muttalib is why he was named, because when he was coming along with his uncle, then people thought that he is a slave. So that's why Abdul Muttalib. Now what happened to Abdul Muttalib? There's some event happened. Number one, he was dreaming of what? That he was directed to undiscover discover the well, because do you remember Jurham tribe? Jurham, they evicted, they when went out the Makkah, they buried the Zamzam well. So the dream was coming that dig that area around Makkah. So he started to dig the area, and he found out there is the water, Zamzam. So it is said this credit goes to Abdul Muttalib. He dug that area, dug the well. And this was after 300 years when Jurham went out. And so they took all the things, precious things from something from Kaaba, and things made from the gold, all things. When he was digging, who was digging? Abdul Muttalib. When Abdul Muttalib was digging the well, he was asking dua. He was asking, oh Allah, if you uncover the well for me, then and you bestow me 10 sons, and they come to age of adults, then I will sacrifice one of my son in your way. So what was dua? If I get a Zamzam, because he was digging the place, and if I get 10 sons, Then one of his son I will sacrifice in your way. Allah heard the dua and he found the water Zamzam and he got 2 sons, 10 sons. So now what happened? He wanted to sacrifice one son in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he draws lots. Quran Andazi ki. Whenever he did draws lots, only one person name came and his name was Abdullah. Abdullah, Prophet's father. And whose name came here? Abdullah. But Abdullah was beloved to father and brother, and he was handsome guy, and he had other qualities as well. So neither father nor family wanted to have a sacrifice in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then it is said Abdul Muttalib went to one lady and asked, what should I do? And then she said that why don't you give the sacrifice money, blood money. And what was blood money in that time? Then 10 camels, the compensation would be 10 camels will be given to the family whose member is killed. So when he heard what he did, not 10, he Abdul Muttalib sacrificed 100 camels in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do you remember what I mean? That whose name was coming in the draws lots? Quran Dazim kiska naam aa raha tha? Abdullah ka. And they don't want to sacrifice Abdullah. So what he was used to do, instead of sacrificing Abdullah, he sacrificed 100 camels. That's why Prophet ﷺ said, what Prophet ﷺ says, that I am the son of 2 Zabih. I am Ismail alayhi salam, who was also meant to be slaughtered for sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but his sacrifice was replaced by ram sheep. And Abdullah also, his sacrifice was replaced by 100 camels. So that's why Prophet is called, he is the son of 2 Zabi. Zabi, the person who was supposed to sacrifice, slaughtered in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they were saved. One was Ismail alayhi salam. When Ibrahim saw the dream that Allah said that sacrifice your son in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and son says, yes Baba, you do whatever Allah commanding you. And second example, Abdullah, who was the father of Prophet ﷺ, he, because Abdul Muttalib make dua, and whose name was coming in draws lots, he's Abdullah. And Abdullah was saved in giving 100 camel sacrifice. So that's why Prophet used to say that I am the son of 2 Zabih.